So it sounds like one of the goals is to engage in what I'll just call for the moment unadulterated self-referencing. Unadulterated in the all senses of the word, because as a child, as you point out, at stages of life that are before puberty, they're literally pre-sexual, which I think is important, right? Because puberty, to me, as a neurobiologist who started off as a developmental neurobiologist, I can tell you that puberty is the most profound transformation that the brain undergoes
Oh, for sure.
in the entire lifespan. There's just absolutely no question about it. Everything is different after puberty because of all of the new relational dynamics that become apparent and our potential involvement in them.
Yeah.
It's not talked about enough how dramatically puberty changes the brain.
Sure.
I mean, we are different people before and after puberty.
Hormones that are suddenly raging.
The hormones are there, and it's not just changes in how we view the world, but changes in how the world views us.
Yeah.
And not just through the lens of sexuality, but also expectation of what we are capable of, what we are responsible for or not responsible for, our learning capacity. I mean, puberty is like this, it's also the most rapid stage of aging in our entire lifespan.
Wow,
Right? Those kids that go home for the summer and then come back, like shaving,
Yeah.
I was sort of I wasn't a late bloomer, but I had a long protracted puberty, but I remember those kids. I'm sure we all remember those kids. Everything changes. And so I think prior to puberty, these seeds, as you've described them, of delight or of resistance to things, I think they are unadulterated. They're not contaminated
Right.
by the voices and expectations of others. And so I can see the challenge of reaching back to those as an adult. I wonder if this relates to something that I've heard you talk about before, although perhaps not as much as some of the other topics you've discussed publicly, which is the real versus the false sublime.
Oh.
Could you perhaps just define for us what sublime really is, what a sublime experience is, and the distinction between real and false sublime experiences? Because I feel like this relates to
really?
finding that seed, right? It's about finding authentic seeds within us, as opposed to when emotions can be distracting and misleading.
Wow. I never made that connection. And it's the book that I'm writing right now. So thank you for that. I'll have to think about that. I'm writing a book on the sublime. And I have several ways of kind of illustrating. I generally like to use a metaphor. And the metaphor is that being a human being, being a social human being living in a particular culture, means that you live inside of a circle. And that circle of that time are the conventions of thinking, of ideas that are acceptable, of behavior that is acceptable. This is where you can go mentally, where you can go physically, all the codes and conventions. So that circle for ancient Egypt and for 21st century America, they're obviously very different, but it's the same circle. It's the same limiting factor. You're not supposed to go outside of it. These are thoughts, experiences, behavior you're not supposed to do. The sublime is what lies just outside that circle. The word sublime comes from on the threshold of. It's like, here's a door, and the sublime is literally at the threshold of the door. You're looking out into something else, right? And the quintessential sublime experience is a near-death experience. You're standing on the doorway, the threshold of death itself, right? And so in my book, I'm illustrating the different kinds of sublime experiences that you can have in relation to the cosmos, in the relation to thinking about being alive. Just being alive is the strangest sensation you could possibly have. I know that very personally after my stroke. I go into a chapter on childhood and how sublime your own childhood was. I go into animals, the relation to animals. I have a chapter about the brain, a chapter about love. I'm working right now on a chapter about history, okay? But what I'm trying to say is the human brain is wired for these experiences, is wired for transcendental experiences that take us out of the narrow little realm that we live in. Because we're aware of our death as the only animal truly conscious of its own mortality, and it frightens the hell out of us. And the idea that we can see something larger than just the banal parts of our life is a doorway that allows us to kind of transcend the moment, to feel connected to something larger, to feel connected to some power in the cosmos, to evolution itself, right? And so we're wired for that. And I'm writing a chapter now about 40,000 years ago at the moment where I think the Sublime was born. Is a story that I'm trying to illustrate right now with our upper Paleolithic ancestors. So it's deep inside of us. We need it. We have to have it. And the 21st century, we have very few avenues for it, any real avenues. Religion used to be the main kind of way of accessing this. And so because it's so deep, we reach for false forms of the sublime that give us the sense that we're transcending, but it's not at all, because sublime has to come from within. It's an experience that you have, that you're generating in your own mind, in your own experience. The false sublime comes from outside. It comes from drugs. It comes from alcohol. It comes from shopping. It comes from online rage. It comes from joining a cause and just getting out all your aggression and violence, right? It comes from causes. It comes from addictions, okay? It gives you a sense, it calms you down and makes you feel like there's something else going on in life besides your job that you're sick of. But it's not real, it's not lasting, it's false, it's an illusion, it's not based on anything real. It's not connecting to that deep part of human nature that's wired for these experiences. So what happens is you have to have more and more and more and more of it. You have to have, more of this rush. You need more of the drug, you need more of the alcohol, you need more of the sex, you need more of the porn. It's never going to satisfy you. But the real sublime, you don't have that feeling. It's like, it's transformative. Once you feel it, it lasts for you for the rest of your life. It's what Maslow, again, called a peak experience. So that's the difference between the false and the real sublime. I haven't quite connected it to what you were saying, but if I think about it, I think you're on something very interesting.
I mean, maybe the connection I was trying to draw was doesn't hold, but yeah, for me, those early experiences of seeing things that just delighted me in a way that felt like that not only is the thought process was a long time ago when something like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this exists. This is so cool. This is the coolest thing. And so clearly create an activation state within me. But then there was also a thought and a feeling of, again, a lot of this is sort of pre-verbal. It's not truly pre-verbal. I could speak at that age, but it was, that's of me and I'm of it, right? There's a connection there. And then it was, there's something to do about this. The activation state created in the body was, I need to learn more about this. I need to tell people about this. I need to think about this. I need more examples of this and see whether or not they're all like this, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly it meets some of the criteria of a sublime experience.
Definitely.
And I knew, again, when I was in graduate school and again when I was a young professor about to transition to tenure, that I knew it was going to do something different. It was as if I was on the threshold of something, but I didn't know what that next thing was. But I could trust it because of that early experience of knowing that's the thread. Like I'm an amphibian. This is my environment.
Yeah.
And you're an amphibian too, right?
Yeah.
And we're different amphibians, but we're going to be amphibians together.
Right.
And there's a permanence to it. It does seem to transcend time. I'm obsessed with time perception, so I have to be careful not to go off on a tangent about that.
Too.
But the human brain's ability to fine slice or macro slice time is incredible. And it's been said of not just addictions, but also interactions with toxic people that they murder time, that humans have I think it was Jung, I'll look it up, but one of the great psychologists said something to the extent that addictive behaviors, thought patterns, substances are humans' attempts to murder time so that they don't have to address their mortality.
Yeah.
And that's always made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, we say kill time is our expression.
Kill time through passive engagement, but also kill time through trying to get overwhelmed or overtaken by an experience or a substance.
As opposed to when you're truly connected, you have that sense of flow, and 3 hours can pass by and you're not even aware of it. So time is a totally subjective experience. It can be extremely slow and tedious and you feel very depressed, or it can pass by, but it passes by without you even noticing it, and it's a wondrous experience, When I'm deep in my writing, I'm not aware of the time passing. I'm so involved, I'm so immersed. It's a deeply, deeply pleasurable experience of time. It is sublime. And yeah, so I agree with you. I think your distinction is very interesting.
I'm eagerly awaiting your next book, but we won't rush you.
Well, I'm so immersed in it that I could talk for hours, because I also have a chapter in there about what I call the daemon, which is like that voice inside of you that speaks to you. And I'm writing a whole chapter about how sublime that is when you connect to that voice. So you are spot on. There is something very much connected to mastery in this book, but it's the next chapter that I'm writing.
Fantastic. I can't wait. I can't wait.